Namaskar everyone. Hi, this is Kunal Bothra. I think we had some sort of a glitch in the audio in the previous uh, version. So I thought why not make it as a fresh content altogether. So thank you so much again for joining. Welcome to the yet another session for YouTube Live. And today the kind of discussion which we'll have in terms of data point would be just about thrilling. Okay, I hope my voice is audible this time around, and there are hopefully no technical issues because today there are two parts of the major observation. So whether you are a trader, whether you are an investor, whether you are a guy who wants to play for an event, whether you are someone who's looking out for budget trade, or whether you are looking out for someone in terms of data point, why there is a certain amount of rise in the India VIX and the fear in the market, what is going on. So we'll discuss on all of those parameters and in a very classic statistical market related manner. Okay. But before we do that, before we go in depth in terms of the analysis and my observations, my two bits on the market reading, I would urge everyone to share the video, and ensure that you do like as well as subscribe to the channel. And most importantly, if you have any comments, any queries, you guys can leave it in the chat box, whether it's on the live video or if you're looking at the recording once the live session is over. So without much ado, let's begin. Let's look at the set of analysis which we have. So there are two parts to today's discussion. The first part is the impact of India VIX. What happens when the India VIX rises to 18 or above levels on a normal event day or an event zone? Amazed with the kind of observation and the impact India VIX has regularly. I'm not saying all of the times, but on most of the times, it has a very similar impact. Okay, of on the Nifty 50 or on the benchmark indices. So you'll be classically amazed with the kind of observation which will bring out. So the first part is discussing India VIX when it crosses 18, and like we did today, where the India VIX closed above the 18 levels. What does that mean? What does that signify? And what is the impact of that for the Nifty? And the second part of today's discussion is because tomorrow is the 2 days prior to the big event, which is the Union Budget 2025. What is the trade which you can take if you are looking at the sector approach or if you're looking at the stock specific approach 1 day prior to the budget? So we've broken the YouTube live into two parts. The pre-budget, today's YouTube live is on India VIX and the pre-budget trade. Tomorrow, what we'll be discussing would be the on the budget day, which are the stocks and which are the indices and sectors which move and which have given 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 strong positive or negative closing on the budget day. So that is something which you can try and take advantage, okay, on the budget day itself. So, but today, as I said, we'll be discussing on India VIX as well as pre-budget. Yeah, so this is the first part of our observation today. Okay, what happens when the India VIX crosses 18? So there are two lines what you can see in front of you. The green line, what you can see is the Nifty 50 chart. The red line, of course, is volatility or the India VIX. Now, India VIX, as the index goes by, we all know that it's a gauge of fear sentiment on the markets. Whenever there is a sense or fear which comes into the indices or in the markets, the India VIX starts to move up higher. The other version is whenever the markets go into a big event, the India VIX starts to rise. So we've excluded the zones where the India VIX remains about 20s and 25s and 30s because we are still not in that zone where there is going to be such a sharp jump on the India VIX. I believe that maybe closer to 18 to maybe at max 20 range is where the India VIX should settle over the next 1 2 days, going into the big event of budget and then Fed as well as the RBI policy. But then the significance of that is something which we are discussing today. So this is where we are currently, where the red line, as you can see, has crossed this. So what I've done is I've just drawn a very simple line of India VIX crossing the level of 18. So this is the 18 line for India VIX. As you can see, the horizontal black line, the red line is India VIX, and the green is the Nifty 50 chart. Now this is the current instance where the India VIX has crossed about the 18 mark. Let's look at the previous instance. Okay, what happens when India VIX crosses the zone of 18? Now, when there is a sharp spike in India VIX, where it moves, in this case, from 12 and a half, 13 and a half levels to 18 plus, you saw the index correcting. In this case, the Nifty fell from 25,000 levels to almost 23,500 mark. But then the most immediate reaction is once the India VIX tops out and you see a sharp cool off, the volatility ends and the index starts to show signs of recovery. Okay, starts to show signs of recovery. Is this a one off data point? No, of course not. Let's look at the previous other instances. This is the second instance where the India VIX. So I just drop down the scale so the chart becomes very observable for all of you. This is the zone May 2024 where the India VIX shot up above 18. But when that happens, the Nifty in this case formed a bottom and you actually saw the index moving up higher. Okay. Now another instance. Let's look at the another set of instances when the India VIX. This is another instance where the India VIX moved up higher above a zone of 18. Okay. In this case, so this was the reading over here. As you can see on look at this part of the arrow. The reading over here, as you can see, is almost 19.39. Okay, in the India VIX over here, closed almost at 18 zones, but we hit 19.39. Look at the index reaction over here. We were almost at 17,600 on the Nifty over here, and we moved towards a zone of 18,000, 18,100 on the index, which means almost a 500 pointer rally that you can convert it to almost 3% for the index move, which happened after the cool off of India VIX. I hope you're getting the correlation that why India VIX above 18 generally signifies that a near term bottom could be at place, and we are looking at a decent rally for the index. Let's look at another set of data points where the India VIX shot up. So look at this data point. This is 2021, September, October 2021. The India VIX shot up about 18, as you can see, for the first time after a gap of many months. And that was a time where the index eventually, after a selling spree from 18,000 levels thereabout, came down to almost 16,000, 17,500, 400 levels. And from there started a recovery mode where the index moved up higher. So multiple instances you are seeing that the index post the rise of India VIX, whenever the India VIX cools off, this is a fantastic observation, guys. When the India VIX cools off, the index or the pressure on the index eases and you start to see a bounce or a rally. Okay. Now, again, we go back to much previous instances when the India VIX. So this is the instance. This was in 2020. Of course, a deep exceptional scenario. But even if you look at this scenario, in this case, when the India VIX shot up to 18 plus, you can see that there has been a temporary bounce which happened on the Nifty. Yeah, you can see this gap over here, and this bounce which happened was almost like 11,000. We were almost at 10,900, 11,000 levels, and we moved towards 11,350. So again, 3% jump is what we had seen once the India VIX moves above 18 mark. Okay, now let's look at the next few instances. See this point over here, the India VIX jumps up to 18 plus levels, and that leads to the index forming a bottom and then a movement of almost 2 to 3%. So again over here 10,800, 11,100. This is not mere coincidence. This has been a constant reading for the index in the last many months, many series when the India VIX jumps above the 18 mark. So that could probably give you a hang that right now we are in a zone where the India VIX is at a zone of 18 plus. Say tomorrow, or say day after tomorrow, or say on the budget day, if the India VIX starts to cool off, from that day, we believe that the index can start to scale at least 3% from the lows which we have made. So we made a low of almost 22,800 on the Nifty. You do the math of 3%, which means at least we are looking at 600 to 650 points kind of a rally from that 22,800 support for the index. Do the math, that takes you to almost 23,500. So which means that even from current levels where we've closed today on the index, that's approximately 23,000, 23,100 mark, there should be at least another 300 to 400 point jump on the index going into the budget and hopefully post the budget. So I hope you found this observation very intriguing and very interesting, of course. Okay, the next set of data point which we'll be discussing today is what happens one day prior to the budget in terms of sectors, indices, as well as stocks. And there are some very interesting observations which I have. So the first aspect is in the last eight, in the last 10 budgets, in 8 instances, we've seen the Bank Nifty close positive. Okay, the Bank Nifty closes positive one day prior to the big day budget, which means, for example, in this case, since Saturday is the budget, 1st of February 2025, the expectation is the statistical analysis shows that in the previous such instances, 8 out of 10 times, Bank Nifty has given positive returns, and the average positive returns for the index is almost 0.6%. So we are almost at what, 50,000 for the Bank Nifty as an index, 49,000 thereabouts. So you're looking at 0.6% returns for the banking index. That means closer to 300 to 350 points is the positive close the Bank Nifty generally gives on the budget day. These are closing based numbers, guys. Intraday the swings could be very wild and very steep. Financial services, a sector which many of the stocks form a part of the Nifty 50 also. Many of the stocks have given positive returns pre-budget day. So financial services index as a sector moves 0.4%. Private banks generally gives you 8 out of the last 10 observations, 10 readings for budget has given you positive return, and it's closed 0.5% in the positive side. And the only number which is actually the two numbers which have actually given you very tepid performance, like tepid in the sense average gains are very minuscule, that's FMCG as well as infrastructure. So you can see, or even energy sector. So very small gains into these indices. Look at PSU Bank, 1.3%. So even though it is not as if that it closes 8 out of 10 times, 7 out of 10 times the PSU banking index has closed on a positive note pre-budget, the average gain is on the higher side. Why does this happen? The markets go into the budget with the expectation that something positive could be doled out on the budget day, and that's why you see the price action for these indices in that kind of a manner. Now, of course, हम जब तेजी की बात करें तो मंदी की भी बात करना जरूरी है. So, which are the indices where the returns are negative? So, post or rather on the one day prior to the budget day. So, in fact, the title over there is total years of negative. So, just pardon me for that. But over the last 6 instances, over the last 10 instances, 6 times is where the IT index has closed negative pre the budget day. So which means 0.41% is the negative return for the IT index. Metal index has again given you a negative return 6 out of 10 times on the pre-budget day. So that tells you that maybe these two indices are where you may probably expect some bit of correction, some bit of profit booking on an average. That lands all of us towards the stocks. What are the kind of stocks which have given great returns again on a statistical basis pre-budget? And the data is very, very interesting. So you can see there is almost like 100% strike rate in terms of the data point on the pre-budget day. So if the data for the last 2 years, for example, in this case, delivery, the last 3 years, the data is only for the last 3 years. Jupiter Wagon also 3 years. Railtel, Cochin Shipyard, Anantraj 9 years, 10 years respectively. So in the previous instances, 10 out of 10 times, Anantraj has actually given positive returns one day prior to the budget. So, and the gains, as you can see, on an average are almost 2.29. And then you can see the slew of stocks: Cochin Shipyard, Borosil Renewables, Railtel, Sona Comstar, Jupiter Wagons, Shriram Finance, Zydus Life, Delivery, LT Foods. These stocks, they generally give you strong outcome in terms of price performance one day prior to the budget. So tomorrow is Thursday. It's the expiry day for the Jan series, and tomorrow's closing could be a good enough data point where you might pick and choose some of the stocks from this category if you are playing the pre-budget trade. And then we'll take one more data point in which are the stocks which have been losers one day prior to the budget. So you may be a bit watchful, you may be a bit careful over here. So Moil, Hindustan Oil Exploration, Sharda Motors, Tata Investments, these stocks, they hardly give any major positive outcome in terms of years. So only one instance out of the last 10 years, Moil has closed positive, which means 9 instances the stock has actually closed on a negative note on the day prior to the budget. Like that, you have HCL Tech, which has given 1.14% negative returns on an average just one day prior to the budget. That also tells you that why the Nifty IT index underperforms the pre-budget. So like that, we've broken the analysis into pre-budget. Tomorrow, we'll be discussing what happens during the budget, and then on Friday, we'll be discussing what happens in terms of the data point on indices as well as on stocks, or what happens towards stocks which gives returns positive, negative post the budget. So I hope you found this data point very, very interesting. We discussed two parts: the India VIX as well as the pre-budget day statistics, what the index outperformance is, which are the index which you can bet on, which are the index which you can avoid, and which are the stocks which you can look out for if in case you decide to take a punt, decide to take a bet, especially based on the statistical parts over the last 10 years. So I hope you liked this video. Don't forget to log in tomorrow, because tomorrow we'll be discussing what happens to the index on the day of budget and which are the stocks to bet on the budget day. And of course, very, very interesting set of observations which we keep on giving in terms of the current market outlook. So thank you once again, guys. Don't forget to like, share the video as well as subscribe to the channel. Thank you.